Agreement?
There you go. Thank you.
All right, you guys tell me when we're ready.
Oh, we're ready.
Go for it.
Okay. Again, thank you all for coming up. My name is Cynthia Wilson. I am the president of the Minneapolis NAACP, and I'm here with Alexis Mann, who is one of our teachers with the Minneapolis Public Schools, who will be sharing some information about the reason why we're here. But the main reason why we're here is to also uncover discrimination practices that are held in this building right here behind us. You guys are aware of the findings that came out with the Minneapolis Police Department, and they're not the only entity. The Minneapolis NAACP, will be unveiling a lot of other entities who have also been very active in discrimination practices against Black people. And so some of those other entities are City Council, City of Minneapolis, Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, and we are doing our work in terms of bringing all of this information to light. So today we initially had 3 teachers who were willing to come. One actually had an emergency where they had to go out of town. The other one is either en route or maybe is detained in some other capacity. But nonetheless, we are here. We have information that we want to share. It is my job as the president of NAACP is to investigate any findings or any allegations that comes to our office. And with that being said, Alexis is going to share a plethora of information for you on today and what's been going on. But I do want to add that prior to this press conference, I was asked to come to this very building when they started the strike. And I stood in solidarity at that time because I didn't have all of the information about what was going on. But after I did some research, I found out that the purpose of that strike had absolutely nothing to do with the teachers, with financial gain, with smaller classes, everything that they laid out. The truth was veiled. And so we want to unveil the truth. It was actually used as a means to do what I'm sorry, I want to make sure I get her name right. Greta Callahan, what she was doing with campaigning. It was a way for her to campaign during the time that we needed our children in school. And so this whole campaign has been veiled altogether for her to get out her message and not for others, i.e. Alexis Mann, to tell her story about also campaigning. So this is an opportunity for you to know what's really going on. So with no further ado, Alex Mann, and after Alex Mann, we do have a community member. He like his name to be anonymous for a lot of reasons, but he has a lot of information as well. He'll be speaking afterwards. And afterwards, if you have any questions, you can ask us. Thank you.
I also have a student here with me too that I brought after when I'm going to share my words. First, I just want to say that I'm very honored and thankful for the NAACP's support of my candidacy for president of the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers. And I'm running with the Coalition of Truth. And we are here to uncover the truth. We are here to report the truth. And we are here to demand the truth. And as Cynthia said, we did not get the truth with respect to the strike. The strike was carefully calculated such that when the intent to strike was filed, it happened on the very same day that our nominations opened. So that made it very difficult for the election itself to get any publicity within our union. In addition to that, the strike was precipitated upon the safe and stable schools notion. However, in fact, this whole strike was really all about protecting teacher seniority. As we see in our tentative contract agreement, there is no change to teacher seniority in that agreement. Although there are some contract language in the contract around protection for underrepresented teachers that has really nothing to do with protecting Black teachers specifically and other teachers of color. Also, the language that's in the contract is mostly reactionary. In the exit interview process, it doesn't really speak to the recruitment process or the retention process and what steps are going to be taken outside of the mentoring piece, because there are a lot of political dynamics that are involved in who gets placed in buildings and who provides mentoring and who's on what team. And that is also seen within our union. The strike not only was a campaign tactic by the president, it was also used as a means to divide our union. Our union members are now more divided than ever, especially if you're like me and you knew better than to participate in the strike because of the truth not being told. I was present in the union well before the strike talk started. I heard the previous president, Michelle Weiss, talk about how important it was to protect seniority because it had been taken off the books at the state level, so there are no statutory protections for last in, first out. So the only way that they can protect teacher seniority is through our teachers' contracts. So this union has been building up the momentum. We've hired organizers from the state and local levels to come in and get members organized. So this was not Greta's own doing. She's had help from other members who've been paid by Education Minnesota and our union to work on behalf of protecting teacher seniority. And honestly, I'll say that right now we're in a crisis in the state of Minnesota as far as teachers. There's a teacher shortage. There is a lack of diversity in our teacher workforce. There's a lack of Black teachers. There's a lack of teachers of color. And there are systems in place that make it very difficult for teachers to get into the classroom. So this whole system of protecting teacher seniority at the expense of recruiting and retaining a diverse workforce is not going to work. It is not sustainable. We have so many vacancies in Minneapolis public schools right now that have not been filled, where we have district program facilitators who've been reassigned and pulled out of their positions to go sub in schools. So there's room for everybody. I'm not sure exactly why our union has continued to pit increasing our diverse workforce against teacher seniority. I'm not understanding the strategy in that, but I have witnessed budgeting and bargaining cycles wherein members have been kept in the dark about how they're negotiating and what they're negotiating. I've seen a pattern of salary increases that are in line with the lack of changes in our interview and select process. So if you look and pay close attention to our interview and select process and our tentative agreement and in our teacher contract, that is the seniority piece that didn't change. And I did, when I asked union leadership prior to the strike, actually before the walkout actually happened, what they were doing about the MOA that was presented to the district this round. And just to give you a little education around that, the MOA that was introduced to the district on this last negotiation round was the second time they introduced the very same MOA that was written and drafted by the union and rejected by the district because of the legalities around, Title IX, and you can't hire or fire somebody based on race. So the district could not accept that. They introduced the same MOA this time around, changed a little bit of the language. Then when the district said, hey, yeah, we'll accept it, but let's make it this. Let's say you have to have graduated from an HBCU or you have to be a resident of Minneapolis or that. The union wasn't expecting that response. And then what they did was they failed to negotiate on that MOA, which as an MOA could be negotiated at any time in our contract. It doesn't have to be tied to our regular contract bargaining cycle. So in that respect, they deliberately withheld protecting teachers of color, Black teachers, from this current budget tie-out cycle, the one that they had before the recent reopening of the budget tie-out process. As a result, we lost more Black teachers and teachers of color while our union was out door knocking. They could have been at the table negotiating that MOA, but they waited until after budget tie-out closed. At that point, then it was moot. On March 5th, I believe it was, according to the district website, the updates, MFT removed that language altogether. How you doing? They removed that language altogether. The protections were then taken away. So that was used as a bargaining chip to forestall the strike. That was part of the reason why the strike took as many days as it did. We also learned that MFT was doing dirty negotiating. They were passing blank proposals to the district. And when the district rejected those blank proposals that they put on the table, they walked out and said, we're done negotiating. They used very limited time to negotiate during the strike with the district. They said they'd be there 24/7. That was not the case. As a result, people are now losing their job. More people are losing their job because of the demands that were met, wanting to end the strike, and then also forcing a desperation vote, if you will, waiting until March 26th or whatever it was that Friday to present the agreement to members, giving us 2 days to approve it at a time when we were very close to losing our health care benefits. Unacceptable on both sides. It was a cruel negotiation tactic. The tentative agreement that the teachers agreed to, there are many of us that are not happy with it. There are many of us that are not satisfied. There are many of us that are now going to lose their jobs as a result of budget tie-out being reopened. Now, with all of that, sounds very dismal, but I'm here to bring hope. I'm here to bring change. I'm here to lead this union with love.
All right.
I'm here to demand that we prioritize student achievement. I'm here to demand that we stop with the politics, we stop with the racist practices. I'm here to demand the truth. I'm here to demand transparency. I'm here to demand that we make steps towards making our district great again. We are losing students by the boatload. We lost 1,000 more students throughout the strike. We cannot continue to lose students and maintain a healthy budget. In addition to that, we're doing picketing at the Davis Center around who gets cut. Instead of that, let's go lockstep with the district down to the Capitol, and let's hold our Senate accountable to increasing funding at the state level. Let's hold our Senate and our legislators accountable for education equity. It starts with funding. We are fighting the wrong fight. We don't need to fight each other and be mad at each other because folks didn't strike because they had alternative perspectives or they knew the truth like I did. We should not be silencing members. We should not be ignoring members' voices like those of us at Harrison who've been asking for safe and stable schools and our MOA that has not even been introduced to the district. So I have personal reasons for not wanting to strike, for not being able to strike, in addition to my financial limitations. And single mom, I've got 3 kids and 2 grandkids, and I'm a sole provider for them all, but I make a way. I know how to make a way out of no way. And I can certainly do that in this case. We need new leadership that's not tied to any political interests or ulterior motives, right? I'm here to bring hope to our students that things can get better. Now, what I'll say too is when we think about this election, our union is not publicizing this. You will not go to their website landing page and find an announcement about the election. You'll have to be savvy enough to click the election tab to get those details. You will also not be able to find this information on their Facebook page. They update it all the time, and I've asked over and over again, why is this? And I gotten attacked by other members. Recently, I went to the school board building. I took 77 balloons with me to represent the percentage of students in this district that can't read at grade level. I went to ask our union to prioritize this, to start talking about this, to start demanding changes around the academic disparities in our state and in our schools. And instead, I was booed. I was booed by mean, bully teachers. I was booed. They didn't even want to hear what I had to say. So this is an example of the type of union leadership that we are currently experiencing that, again, is not sustainable if we want to continue to keep students in our schools, if we want to continue to keep teachers in our district, because we're driving them out with this bullying, this racism, the strike, and asking people to lose money and sacrifice their pay, and then not getting what they've been promised in return. I've got Robert over here. Robert, do you want to speak on some of this? This is a friend of mine.
I'm a teacher. I'm not in the union.
Talk about that. Come on up, Robert. I'll give you some space.
I was just actually biking home from work and saw there was a press conference. Nafisa and I know each other.
Can you get closer to the mic?
Yeah, Nafisa and I know each other from some classes at the school district. I work in an alternative school, and I would actually really like to be in the union. There's maybe 10 or 15 alternative schools in the school district where there are students in the school district, but the teachers are not included in the union, and that's a long, complicated history for that. But basically, these are the students who have been underserved, dropped out, been kicked out for complex reasons that the schools are unable to service students. So, I was just saying, my concern is that you are criticizing the union from outside but not within the union, and I just want to know why that's the case, why you're not, within the union trying to build the union as a criticism, and you didn't join in the strike. And that was something that really frustrated me, because the strike was a source of hope and inspiration for the teachers and students at my school. Even though we weren't on strike, we actually went out to the picket lines, we went to the rallies, because it was finally a political opening from decades of neglect from our schools, that teachers, students, and the community are starting to speak up and say, we can't continue to function this way. I respect you for your voice on racism, but actually I disagree with your methods, that I think you're making alliances that are not helpful. And I think that the district has not bargaining good faith. So I actually, as a friend,
I appreciate your
colleague, I think this is a good analysis of what's wrong. Except for I agree that we need to go to the street and say problem, that it's about time to have a different conversation. the wealthiest people in the state have been able to go with taking advantage of the labor of people in the state, but we need to actually fund the basic institutions that support our communities, and schools are one of the last public institutions that serve everyone. So why aren't we funding schools when we have crises?
That's what our union can do. I'll do that. I want to respond to this, Robert, because that's been a criticism. But first, I want to say I am a member of the union, and I am speaking from inside of the union, and I do go to these meetings, Robert. So while you're not there, and you might not know what's really going on inside of these buildings, this strike was never even about what y'all all went to the picket lines for. The problem is you were misinformed. The problem is that you were misguided. The problem is, let me speak because I was here when there was only 30 people in this building. I was here when Michelle Weiss said they had to do everything they could to protect teacher seniority. So I'm going to speak to my truth, and I need you to know, as a member who wants to be in this union, there needs to be more transparency. These deals are taking place behind closed doors. The promises that were made as a result of the strike did not come to fruition from the strike. However, we were quick to go into a teacher agreement. There was something that the union got out of that negotiation practice that they did with the district that they foresaw for as long as they did, that had nothing to do with what you and your colleagues were striking about. And I also want to add that the criticism about me not striking is further evidence of the division. This strike was used to divide members. And basically, if you are not well informed, then you're thinking you're striking for one thing. None of us got what we expected with this strike. We were all duped. We were all bamboozled, except for me. I knew the truth. So I wasn't going to sit up and make a, statement that, yeah, I support the union. I did vote in support of the strike, but if you're not prioritizing protections for Black teachers, that's me. That's a problem for me. I can't lose money and you're not protecting my people. I'm unwilling. Hang on, let me finish, Robert, because I don't want to turn this into an argument. But I'm unwilling to support a union that does not prioritize recruiting and retaining Black teachers. I need to be clear about that. I'm a Black woman. I speak for Black people. There are over 65 students in this district that are Black or students of color. Okay, less than 30% of our workforce are teachers of color, Robert. That's a problem. That's been upheld for too long, even with this current leadership. And what we do with the misinformation is we create a divide. That is why transparency is so important. Because Robert, if you knew what I knew, then you'd understand better. That's what I want to say to you. And I just encourage you to stay more engaged, to stay more involved so that you can make informed decisions, so that people can't tell you one thing and do another. That's what my family taught me.
And this is a good segue for me to come in real quick, because this is what I want you to see. I don't want you to see, I didn't want you to, I wanted this to be real, right? Yeah. This was not staged, and we did not want him not to talk. Absolutely. Because that's what transparency is.
Right. That's right.
Not giving him a space to talk would have been veiling, which is what
like
has
they
been
do to
doing,
me. Like it's been done to me.
So I'm very grateful for this, because this is what you want. At this time, I would like to have community
brief response.
Yeah.
This is what the media should be very excited about.
Hold on, Robert. Yes, you can.
Mr. Robert came over and had a nice exchange with Mrs. Alexis, who's running for the president of the Teachers Union. We would like to see that kind of debate happen between the two candidates. That is real transparency. Alexis, who's running for the presidency, went out to the school district, in front of the school district, with all the teachers that she's in solidarity with, because they're of the profession of teaching our children. There was no debate. There was no time or space for her to articulate her opinions. As a matter of fact, she was quite bullied. And this is not right. She's speaking on behalf of a lot of Black teachers, and mainly Black students, who are 77% of the failure in these Minneapolis public schools. 77% of Black students can't read at grade level. Imagine how upset we should be about that, instead of teachers getting paid more money that are actually producing some failure. Let's be honest. Yeah. Our children deserve better, our teachers deserve better, and they do deserve at least a platform where they can debate about the issues. Alexis has been silenced out in every capacity of transparency around this teachers union election. I dare the media or anybody watching right now, go to the MFT's website and try to learn more about this election taking place. it's almost being promoted like the teachers union strike is still going on today. You don't hear anything about that. And so, Alexis, I really want to say, just as somebody being in the community, for you to even give up your space, because this is a press conference for you and the rest of the Black teachers and teachers that are in solidarity with the issues, to give up your space to somebody to even be challenged publicly in front of the media shows leadership on your part.
This is an ally. He's an ally. I'm about understanding. I've worked with Robert. We've been to trainings together. We've worked alongside each other in the past. This is an ally, but I understand the narrative that's been painted about me, who happens to be Black, by our union. And I don't stand to gain anything by, coming and disrupting the union. That is not my goal. What I want is I want to put kids first. I want to prioritize student achievement. When I asked about these things during and before the strike, I was ignored. I have email communication that was sent out to the union asking them, what are you going to do about this MOA? What's the status? Are you going to negotiate it? There was no response. I could not, in good faith, in my heart, as a Black woman, support a strike that sought to use us being Black teachers and teachers of color, as a bargaining chip, which is exactly what happened, Robert, unfortunately. I'm sorry so many people lost their job. It's very selfish of our leadership to do this to all of these members and to fool us all to maintain teacher seniority. But I'm here to say we're going to have to find another way. We're going to have to find another way to fix the teacher seniority thing and increase our diverse teacher workforce.
In fact, no. This is a segue before you bring him in. I'm going to stand with Alexis, and we're challenging Greta
for a public debate. That's right.
Yes. Let's do that.
In front of the press.
I'm all for it.
In front of the press.
Put the truth out there.
Let's really get
the
truth
date
out
and
there.
time out now.
I don't want to just put her name out there and not let her have her side to tell her side as well. But if we're lying, then come out in front of the press.
Help me understand.
Help us
I need more transparency.
Yes, and the NAACP will host that. Look, how about
Next Thursday
works for us.
Now, voting does open Monday, and this is another cute thing that our union is doing. Yeah, let's check this out. So I want y'all to get this out there. So voting is going to open on Monday. They're going to be sending ballots to members' work emails. They're already sending emails to some members, if you get it, because for some mysterious reason now, I'm not getting any of the emails. So people have to forward me these messages, and one of the messages that was just forwarded to me said that you have to go through extra steps to set up the email that's going to come from this balloting surveying group that's going to oversee our election. Set it up so that the email gets to your inbox. So if you don't get that email and you don't take the steps to set up this address in your inbox to receive the ballot, you won't receive it. Secondly, you get one ballot, but the election stays open for 2 weeks. So that means that members, if they don't vote on Monday, they got to remember to go scroll all the way through their email to find that ballot. So that is just another unfair election practice, just for folks to be aware. If we can get the word out, folks, go ahead and open your inbox on Monday. Contact the election committee if you did not get the email with the survey link in it for the election ballot, and make sure that you vote before May 13th.
Do you think the teachers union is practicing a form of racism inside the union with this election? Yes or no?
Well, absolutely, because like I said, the strike was filed on the intent to strike was filed on the very same day that nominations opened. A day after nominations closed, that's when the agreement came out. Now, members, I'm a full-time teacher. I didn't have the luxury like the current leadership to be pulled out on release to campaign alongside the previous president to get into office. I didn't have that luxury. I had to continue working full-time. So this is very difficult for a full-time teacher to carry out a strong campaign in 6 weeks. And I stepped in at the 11th hour because Nafisa Muhammad, I originally nominated her, but because she was bullied by our union, she saw firsthand the racism, as did the Henry teachers. And she decided, look, I'm going to leave the classroom, I'm going to leave my school, and I'm going to leave the district. And if it wasn't for her administrator, Yusuf, over at Henry, she would be gone. So here I am to answer the call. In principle, I could not let this current leader run unopposed with the things that she's been doing to members and our students.
So again, we are looking to have a debate with Greta. We will, between today and tomorrow, we will try to finalize a date, a time and place, and we'll get that out. and the Minneapolis NAACP will host that. I do want to allow Robert a chance to respond. I'm not giving you all my time, Robert, but I'm going to give you some time.
Sure. Thank you, Alexis. I'm kind of speaking. There's a lot of internal politics happening in the union. To add a little bit of context, MFT, like a lot of unions around the country, have been operating from a business union model, which is very top down. And there's been a process of transformation towards a more horizontal, bottom-up, grassroots basis for the model. And the union isn't there yet, and that's why things have been so messy lately. Leadership doesn't have a ton of experience around just how do we involve membership, because that hasn't been the model. But we're seeing a new labor movement happening in this country where people are desperate to have a voice in the workplace about their working conditions, and not just have people on top, like their employer or union bosses have everything to say. So I'm speaking from a place of support for the union. I think there needs to be more discourse and debate about how the union is run, and I support that happening. But people can disagree, and I'm just really concerned that right now there are forces within the city who don't care about public education. We're supporting groups and using the language of civil rights to undermine the union because they actually don't care about public education. And one group that I want to speak to is the Minneapolis Foundation. They fund some good work, but in the end, they don't care about public education. They want to see it privatized, and that's part of the charter movement that we're seeing in this city and across the world. So one last thing is, I have worked at a charter school, and it was in some ways very creative environment, but super stressful. I was tricked out of pay for my job, and so that's one reason why I'm really desperate to have a union job where we can have internal discussions, debate, and votes, and act together as in terms of what's good for the teachers, the students, and the community. And those are really my concerns.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I want to say something too about the legislative piece of this too, because I there's a lot of money. I mean, the union, there's a lot of money that goes to Minneapolis Federation of Teachers. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of money at stake. There's a reason why I'm not front and center in the union's work and Education Minnesota's work. Education Minnesota is an extremely powerful political organization. There are extreme political interests at stake in the leadership that is in charge of all unions, in particular Minneapolis Federation of Teachers. And if we want leadership that cares about changing the trajectory for our students, then we have to put politics aside. What we've seen for decades is a lack of progress, especially for Black students and students of color across the state. We used to come second to Wisconsin, but we're back at the top, leading the nation in academic disparities. Yeah. And I don't see a movement to change that coming from within our union. And if you come at like me to say, hey, let's prioritize achievement, let's create a more diverse workforce, you're anti-union. And that's unacceptable. That is unacceptable when you have a different perspective and you're treated differently. It is unacceptable when your priorities don't call for you to be able to strike and to lose money. And because you have bills to pay, you have ends to meet, but yet you're treated and ostracized like you don't pay. I pay dues to be a member in this union. I do not appreciate being referred to as anti-union or anti-public schools, especially when our kids are doing so bad. So if I'm calling attention to this issue and I'm asking for us to prioritize this issue, let's leave it at that. Let's not leave the suspicion and all of the public, private charter school debate. That's something we can't stop. That's bigger than me. That's bigger than this union right now. That's bigger than this election. And that's something else that we're going to have to figure out as a state. But we just cannot continue to operate the way that we've been operating. It was important for me to bring a student here so that he can speak to his experience with teachers. And I'll just ask him a quick question, and then we can take questions from the media. You want to come up? He is an adult. This young man is 19 years old. His name is Tyreek. And I just want to ask you, Tyreek, what has been your experience with teachers? You're 19 years old. You're about to graduate. You haven't quite graduated yet. Can you speak a little bit about how your educational experience has been, specifically how your teachers have treated you?
I honestly hate it. Me as a person, I really don't like majority of my teachers. This is not really, honestly. none of them, they don't build bonds with us, which makes it really hard to learn. If you can't learn, I guess.
It's a relationship.
Yes, exactly. There's a relationship, and they're just not willing to do that. It makes it hard.
So there's a lack of connection. The teachers aren't making the connection. How well do you read? Do you feel like you're reading at grade level?
I used to read at a 5th grade reading level up until a couple years ago, where I personally had to pick up a book and learn.
You have to teach yourself. So the teachers aren't teaching you to read?
No.
Okay. So this isn't an issue with being anti-union. Now, I work with the most marginalized students in our district, and none of them can read at grade level. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. How many of you are willing to marry somebody who can't read? How many of you want your kids to marry somebody who can't read? Well, these people are going to be starting families. They're going to have families of their own. So by not teaching our kids to read, we are creating generational poverty in our state. This has to stop. Win or lose, I'm going to be here to continue to demand changes around our academic disparities in this state. Thank you, and I'll take questions.
Alexis, I am humble enough to admit that there was a lot of this that seemed like inside baseball that I do not understand. If you had to boil it down, sounds like maybe Greta abused her position, and so you want a fair election. I mean, what if you had to boil down what we're here for? What is it?
Well, the first thing I'm here for is I want to demand that we start to prioritize achievement. We must change the trajectory for our students. 77% of the students in the district can't read. But we're not hearing about that with the strike. That has not been prioritized. I'm here today to bring awareness to the fact that we need a change in our union leadership. Also, to bring to highlight this historic partnership between myself and the NAACP, a teacher with Minneapolis Public Schools, running for president of the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers. This is historic. This has not happened before.
Absolutely. And as we said last time we were here on last Thursday, we'll keep showing up. And if this was a shooting or a kid getting killed or somebody being murdered, this place would be flooded with press. And don't get me wrong, we're thankful for those who are here. But whenever you're standing up for the living or life, you can't get people to grasp that. You know, it maybe doesn't sell. It's not good news. But this information is vital to the success of our Black children. It's a case of prison to pipeline. If they don't read, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to be out in somebody's backyard, vandalizing, breaking it. They're going to do what they need to do to survive. So if we're not going to get the help here, when is it going to start? So when I called this press conference, I wanted to make sure that we're transparent, we're giving it to you raw and uncut, and we are being very integral about the information that we're providing. So if you have any questions,
can you explain too a little bit more about what you want to see in the contract, particularly as it relates to teachers of color, that is not in this agreement that was just approved?
Well, so we need a new framework for how we're addressing this, right? And there's something called affirmative action, right? We can use something like affirmative action to address this. Because what we're doing right now is we're setting the district up for a liability lawsuits on either side, as far as discrimination.
Say that again, please.
So I would entertain affirmative action language as contract language in place of what's currently in there. And maybe by me saying this, and I don't win, or I'm going to claim it. But there you go. There's the blueprint. Okay, affirmative action. Let's look at some affirmative action. Also, we're going to have to look at the interview process, because the way that it's set up right now, and I know that you mentioned that you don't know much about this, so let me make this. I'm going to start to do a quick tutorial of how this interview and select process works. Okay, so right now there's 8 candidates that get interviewed for any one position. Right, 4 of those candidates are the most senior teachers. Okay, so most senior teachers who apply for the position get considered for an interview first. Then they look at the next 2 internal candidates based on seniority again. So you're leaving out the ones in the middle. But then there's only 2 openings from the outside that have an opportunity to interview for a position. So with the current way that our interview and select process is set up, you're only going to interview 2 people from the outside. Now that's after you've already interviewed 6 people. Now, and that's 2 rounds of interviewing that way. So then by the time you wait for your turn from the outside, you've already gotten another job. You're thinking you're not going to get an interview. You're not waiting around. You need to feed your family. You need to know what's going to happen. So that is why we see a very small number of Black teachers and teachers of color coming in. And most of them who do come in, by the way, are Black teachers or teachers of color, yet they're the first ones to go out based on the contract. By the way, the protections that are in the tentative agreement, they do not impact this current, this contract cycle. So there's no protections right now. We're going to lose more Black teachers as a result of this strike. So I am very proud of my decision, Robert. I'm sorry. I am very proud of my decision not to strike, because that was my strike. As a Black teacher, I did strike right in my building, right at work, because I will not be used that way.
And
Any other questions?
If you could spell your name for us too, please, just so we have that correct.
Alexis, Alexis Mann, Mann.
And you teach where? And
I'm a teacher at Harrison, a proud teacher at Harrison Education Center.
Can you just give them a little information about Harrison?
So I'm an English teacher. I'm an English teacher at Harrison Education Center. All of the students there are at risk. The students at Harrison have all been rejected and excluded from the regular mainstream schools because of their behaviors or something they did. Kids like this young man here don't even know how they got there. They don't even understand it. If you ask him what in the world he's in special education for, he won't even be able to tell you. A lot of my kids, it's a high school, so I teach 9 through 12. A lot of the kids I teach have been in a setting 4. They've come from Riverbend. It feeds them right over to Harrison. Riverbend is the K-8 program for students who have been excluded to the point where they cannot be in a mainstream setting with their peers. 98% of the students at Harrison are Black. Over half of the staff at Harrison are Black. We have a lot of needs at Harrison that are not being met under our current contract. We've asked for some special language for us prior to the strike 4 years ago, got nowhere. And I'll say, while I'm on the subject, to the district's credit, they acknowledge that there needs to be special language for those of us that work at Harrison. There was an MOA that they drafted on their letterhead that was agreed to. However, our union put the kibosh on it and has since refused to bring it up. And I just can't help but to believe, as I look around the staff in the building, that it has something to do with our predominantly Black staff in our building and the predominantly Black students of color that we serve.
You mentioned the bullying and harassment that you faced and that your colleague faced. Do you feel that is targeted, or are you telling us that this is a larger issue within the union?
Oh, yeah, it's not just me. I'm not the only one. Henry teachers were treated very poorly, and they were on strike. And when they brought up this request to put the protections for teachers of color back on the table, they were lambasted for 90 minutes. They were belittled. They were bullied and made to feel worthless by our union for even asking that they put those protections back on the table. The union, and I'm speaking of the leadership, they said that they admitted that those protections were on the table. They wouldn't tell membership. They weren't going to say, hey, you guys, we took those protections off the table. I actually got it from the district's website on March 5th. We didn't walk out till March 8th. So that's why I didn't strike. You know what I mean? March 5th, they took that language out. So they don't care who you are. If you're Black, if you're a teacher of color, they're coming. And if you try to speak out against them, you're anti-union. You don't know what you're talking about. And I've been coming to these meetings. So, oh, yes, I do know what I am talking about.
And just say again, you said you voted against going on strike.
No, I voted in support of the strike.
You voted in support of the strike.
But when I saw that they took the language off of the table protecting teachers of color, I could not in good faith support the strike at that point. Yes, in addition to other reasons that I learned in going to these meetings.
So you were not on the picket lines, but you but
I
initially
voted yes, but okay. I once I saw what was happening and how it was being politicized, filing it on the day that nominations opened, I knew what she was up to. I couldn't.
So to boil down, you're saying you want to prioritize students and you felt like the strike was not doing that.
Absolutely
What
not.
specifically, just because from our perspective and covering it, all we have is what we have.
Yep.
So saying we want, you know what I mean, smaller class sizes, more mental health sports, more
Which we
pay
didn't get
for
with the
ESPs.
contract.
Right.
We did not get smaller class sizes. And even that language is troubling for me to say that you're going to cap the class sizes at 44. Why would we even do that? Why is 44 students in the classroom okay? Do we need contract language that says you can stuff 44 kids in a classroom? I don't like that. I want to see language that says no more than 35. I mean, and even that's a lot. What do we have to do to really, really bring our classroom sizes down? I'm sorry, I wanted to let you finish that.
What about the demands or the way they were presented to us were disingenuous? Or what was the? What do you think they were after?
So they say safe and stable schools. And when I was going to these meetings before and members were demanding strike, and they all want to go on strike for pay because they're upset about their pay. And the union made it clear. They said, this is what you get when you go to the meetings. They said, we can't strike for money because they won't support it. Nobody will support it. The community will not support it. We have to strike for bread and butter issues, like smaller classroom sizes, more mental health supports. Yeah. So that I was in those meetings when that was said. They've been members said, and then also they said we just don't have enough membership participation and involvement to strike. But this strike was ill-timed. We could have went on strike when the district had the money that they used for the CDD. That would have been a better time to strike. However, we have not engaged our membership enough. We haven't moved closer toward that service model, right? We're stuck in the status quo thing for political reasons or whatever it is. But I would say that it was a lot of ambiguity. Safe and stable schools. What does that mean? So when members ask, well, you know, what is that about? Tell your story. Go out and tell your story about what it's like as a teacher with little resources. So we're thinking, okay, it's what we say it is. But it wasn't safe and stable schools. It wasn't clearly defined. A lot of members, if you even ask, they say, I don't know, but they're just striking because it's the right thing to do. Let's show solidarity. But nobody's really questioning. And if they did, the information is not there. And the union would say, when I got information and I brought it to membership, they'd say, oh, if it didn't come from us, don't believe it. But nothing's coming. And I had nothing else to believe. So therein, again, is the lack of transparency, which is another thing that I'm demanding from leadership.
And then just to clarify, kind of going off of that point, you know, we knew like the protections in terms of like the bullet point line. But can you dive into some more details about the protections that you had thought that you were going to see that were taken off the table that you want to see?
Well, they took the whole thing off the table, first of all. So that they took the MOA out. And like I said, back in June, the district was okay with it. They finally said, okay, yeah, we'll do it. This was, again, remember, this is the second time they brought the same MOA. But MFT, our current leader, didn't expect that response. And if you go back through their archives and you look, you can see for yourself what happened there. And then it was just never brought up again. So the last time I was in a bargaining session was the October bargaining session, which was still open. And they asked at the beginning of that session, can we please get to the teacher of color MOA? That was back in October. Had we done that, we would have been able to save jobs. We would have been able to save some of these Black teachers' jobs, some of these teachers of color's jobs that lost their jobs this first budget tie-out cycle. But the MFT did not bring it up. Instead, they went on COVID. And I remember the district negotiators saying, hey, we don't think you're bargaining in good faith. We've already responded to all of these requests. You keep asking us about the same things, and we've already responded to it. So I saw what was happening back in October. You know what I mean? I didn't wait until they started saying strike. When people started hearing strike, it's like, oh, what are they saying? Let's win. We're finally going to get more money. And honestly, based on what I'm seeing in my observation, I'm looking for the truth, and I'm going to keep looking. But I feel like we have relinquished our salary increase to protect teacher seniority. The district's last, best, and final offer for both groups was more than what we settled for. So what did the union say to the district that they got off the hook from giving us more money? The district was willing to give us more money, but the union said, no, that's okay. You don't have to give us more money. Just give us, but we don't know what that is because it was negotiated behind closed doors. And I have a strong feeling, and I've said this in the community meetings that I'm in with board chair Ellison. We're actually meeting tonight, and I'm going to ask her again. And I told her I'm going to keep asking her, and they don't want to say it. They're keeping this quiet. It's teacher seniority. So members, our Our bonuses, our raises, our pay increases are all held hostage so that they can protect teacher seniority. So when we decide that we really want to get more money, we're going to have to address the teacher seniority thing. And that's not to say I'm anti-white, I'm anti-seniority. That is to say I'm about equity, I'm about fairness.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.